guys and gals, Never here from Drake Wayne Gaming, and 70 Mount Toward the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you with a Let's Play episode of No More Future. Alright, y'all, let's go ahead and jump right back in, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's-a-go. Let's-a-go. Okay. Jasper takes it upon himself to answer his grandfather's query, though it brings him no joy to do so. At least give us until Christmas. Yes, that's what I seem to recall. But... we'll be generous. You have until the 31st of December. You almost faint upon hearing those words, and Mary isn't too far behind. The 31st? That's only a month from now. Ample time to finish your preparations, wouldn't you say? If you still need evidence that this technology is safe for human use, you will need to have it ready by then. Otherwise, Eagle never finishes his sentence. He doesn't need to. You already have a good idea of what might happen if the doctor can't fulfill our obligations. Mary hesitates for a moment as the true weight of the situation hits her all at once, as though the very ceiling of this room abruptly collapsed on top of her. She never spoke of deadlines before, and for that matter, neither did Jasper, yet they suddenly imposed one on her as though it had always been there. How in the world is she meant to fulfill their expectations? How is she supposed to find out whether you're alive or not a little more than a month? Neither you, the Drake, or even her knows for certain, but Mary's reply is nonetheless as firm as steel. I understand. We will do what we can. Excellent. I always knew we could count on you, Dr. Shelley. Maybe they can, but you? You're beginning to feel quite a lot different about this whole thing. When Mr. Morgan dismissed Jasper's accusations, you almost hoped for a second that your friend had been right in her predictions, that you might have managed to leave this room unscathed after all. But it only took a few words from the ruthless Eagle to send that hope straight to hell, and for a grim shadow to be cast over the feline's ambitious project. A mere 30 days or so to defy all reason and prove your humanity once and for all, and with the specter of the project being cancelled or worse if she cannot succeed. Feeling more hopeless and angry than ever, you turn to face the Drake once again, expecting Jasper to be pleased by these restrictions being imposed on his colleague. Instead, you find him just as speechless and uncertain as Mary is, for reasons you can't even begin to imagine. As if finally noticing the reactions his words have caused on all, Mr. Morgan turns to face his grandson once again, a curious look in his eyes. Perhaps Jasper here could give you a hand in your research. It's difficult to say that the Eagle's sudden interjection shocked any of you, given that the three of you were already more than traumatized already. Excuse me? You still have doubts over the synthetic sentience, correct? I concluded as much from some of your arguments today. Perhaps there is a way you could challenge your viewpoints and aid your colleague in her endeavors in one fell swoop. Why don't you spend some time with that one over there every once in a while, for starters? It'll allow you to keep an eye on it better than you'd otherwise be able to, and provide an opportunity to interact with it and test it at your leisure. You don't even have time to process just what in the world the man's asking his grandson before the latter gets one step away from speaking out of turn. You're asking me to invite him out! Nothing as dramatic as that. All I want is for you to get a feel for these synthetics. If our customers ever have access to our synthetic technology, you'll have to interact with them on a day-to-day basis. Getting some experience with this one now will serve you greatly in the long run. As I previously said, it's an excellent opportunity to gauge whether your opinions on them are founded or not. It might even help Mary with her studies. You take longer than you probably need trying to make sense of Mr. Morgan's suggestion. Is he truly telling Jasper to spend more time with you? That sounds more like a personal insult to everything the Drake just said than a genuine piece of advice, and the Drake seems to share your thoughts on the matter exactly. Not even he can hide all the anger and embarrassment he feels as he suddenly replies to his superior. Very well, I will do as you asked. Good, I knew you'd understand. Now then, I'd say we've achieved what we set out to accomplish here. I thank you for your time. You may now return to your duties. So he says, in spite of Mary and Jasper's faces clearly showing that they wish to discuss more. You half expect a rebuttal coming from them, or at least some sort of passive-aggressive farewell after everything they had to endure. But all that comes out of them is a simple half-bow before they turn tail and head back towards the exit. As for you, all you can do is stare, petrified at the elderly Eagle on the other side of the room, who hasn't stopped gazing at you since giving his underlings his farewells. His eyes are cold and his stare is dreadful to return, yet you can hardly look away from him, afraid as you are of failing some unspecified test and incoming his wrath. You spend what feels like an eternity locked in this state, regretting your choice to ever look his way in the first place before finally... Hey! A familiar voice beckons you as his tender hand reaches for your shoulder. We're leaving. The feline's words take a while to reach you, dazed and confused as you are. But eventually you give a firm nod to the scientist and begin to follow her outside of the owner's meeting room. And one more thing, Dr. Shelley. Both you and Mary freeze in place upon hearing Mr. Morgan speak. You believe the polite thing to do would be to turn around and look into his eyes as he speaks, but if you did that, you don't know if you'd be able to gaze away afterwards. Clearly, Mary is of the same mind as you are, as she sits perfectly still while her boss continues his speech. I don't know what you see in that android or why you decided to let it wander around the country like some kind of lost pet, and frankly, I don't care. I'd say you were due for a treat or two anyhow, even if this complicates our lives somewhat. But you, more than anyone, should know that the company always comes first. Make sure we never have to choose between it and your little science project. That's all the eagle had to say, it would seem. Not long after, you and Mary resume walking towards the elevator, your legs feeling as though they're wading through a swamp. Maybe you'll finally feel safe once you're out of this place. Most likely you won't. Jasper's already waiting for the two of you inside the elevator, a grim look in his eyes as you tiredly approach. You step into the lift with uneven steps, your mind still overwhelmed by everything that happened within that room. You don't know where to begin sifting through that mess of threats, doubts, evidence, and falsehoods. You've been in that room for so long and heard so much, you almost lost track of everything that was said. You hope you'll be able to remember and process everything at its own pace sometime soon, but for now, all you wish to do is rest and forget. Once the three of you have all entered the doors slowly close behind you, finally allowing you some room to... Fuck! You cannot help but jump as Jasper's fist loudly collides with a nearby wall at full speed, leaving behind a small dent in its wake. You immediately turn to face the Drake, whose irate expression leaves no doubt as to his feelings on the results of the meeting. God fucking damn it! He makes as if to hit the wall once again, only stopping himself mere inches away from impact to reel his trembling hand away, his teeth grinding against one another like clashing blades. Yes, my thoughts exactly. Mary doesn't seem to be particularly happy about how things resolved either, though she chooses to display her worries in a far less destructive manner. You quietly approach the scientist, hoping to put a little more distance between you and the fuming dragon behind you. Everything all right? Short answer? Not really, no. Perhaps there was some merit in worrying about this meeting after all. I hadn't even considered that they could call me out like that out of nowhere. I suppose things could have gone worse than they did, but... Far worse? Jasper turns to face the two of you once again, an anger-filled look in his eyes. They ignored all my points, found no issues with your behavior whatsoever, and kindly told me to shove it, and even hooked me up with your toaster boy here just to rub it in. What in the ever-loving fuck even happened there? Jasper truly does live up to the ancient dragons of myth and fable in this moment. You can't say you blame him given how terribly his arguments performed in that meeting room. All along, you thought he had the upper hand on the two of you, and yet, in the end, he didn't quite manage to fulfill either side of the goals he set out for himself. You thought you'd be relieved at such an outcome, but instead all you can feel is fear and confusion. At least Mary's still the same as ever. Oh, please, Jasper, don't be so dramatic. It's not like they took away your job or anything of the sort. They just put you back in your place is all. Besides, when I said it could have gone a lot worse, I was talking about us two. You can see the Drake fighting the urge to respond to the cat lady's words with violence once again, his fist tightening up in direct response to his rage. But as always, he somehow relents at the last possible moment, opting instead to head back to his corner of the elevator to calm down and ponder. When Mary turns to speak to you once again, her voice is barely a whisper. Jeez, what a big baby. Alright, enough taunting. That guy's pissed enough as it is, and I'd rather not have to take one of those punches for you if I can avoid it. Oh please, your armor's more than sturdy enough to resist 100 of those and then some. If anything, it'd be kind of fun to see him wince after breaking a bone or two on. I said enough! The feline finally picks up on the anger and worry in your voice, which stems from far worse than her brash attitude towards her superior alone. I don't feel like laughing right now, not after everything that happened. We came this close to losing everything for crying out loud. I don't know how we managed to win over Jasper, if we can even call it that, but I definitely don't feel like celebrating now. Mary hesitates to reply to your comments. I think he means Mr. Morgan? Mary hesitates to reply to your comments, evidently just as shaken by the recent events as you are. Yeah, things didn't quite go as planned, did they? I knew they were going to lose their patience with me someday, but I didn't expect they'd... Hold on. You're telling me there was a deadline to this project? Why did you never say so before? I didn't tell you about a deadline because there never were any. Well, any formal ones anyway. Synthetics, and by extension the technology that lets people transition into them, were always intended to be sold to people at some point. This is a financial venture, after all. Like Morgan Sr. said, there are already countless facilities all around the world equipped to handle a steady stream of customers every day. Some can even handle hundreds of thousands of people per day. Hundreds of thousands? You're already at that stage? Hey, don't be surprised, the technology's ready, as you're quite clearly aware. And now all that's left is proving that it works. which I honestly thought we'd have more time to do. Well, isn't that typical? You always think things will wind up in your favor in the end, don't you? Jasper turns to face the two of you once again, arms folded and a grim look on his face. You develop a technology that claims to do the impossible, hoping you'll be able to prove its fruitfulness after the deed. You hide illegal weapons in your synthetic's body for testing purposes, hoping no one will catch on to what you're doing. You're so caught up in your so-called genius, you fail to realize that the rest of the world is anywhere near as dumb as you think it is. And when your half-baked plans start falling apart at the seams, you suddenly fall from the crowds like a brain-stunted angel. The frown on Mary's face leaves no doubt in your mind as to how she truly feels deep within. Deep down, she probably knows that Jasper has a point, but she refrains from replying nonetheless. So what now? Have you finally realized the idiocy of your plans now that you only have a month to prove your nonsensical theories true? Or are you going to claim responsibility for once in your life and admit that it's impossible to the owners before the charade can develop any further? Your friend is left thoroughly speechless before the Drake's relentless inquiry, and the same can be said about yourself as well. Even you have to admit that perhaps Mary went a little too far, too soon. Having so many facilities all over the world ready to operate without even knowing if your technology works the way it's supposed to feels a little premature. And now that she has so little time to figure that out, is there even a way things could end well at all, especially for you? What's even going to happen to you if Mary fails in her endeavor? What's going to happen if the synthetic project is deemed a failure by the very people in charge of it? You have no answer to these questions, and the anxiety threatens to eat you up from the inside now more than ever. You hear Jasper prepare himself for a second round of insults against his colleague, entirely oblivious to your rapidly faltering mental state. However, just before he can say another word, "No, this changes nothing. We're still right on track, as we always were. All this did was speed the train up a bit." The feline's tone of voice is serious, calm even, like water streaming down a brook. Somehow you manage to reply before Jasper can. You're serious. Of course I am. I'm always serious when it comes to this stuff. That meeting was a mess, I agree. But we didn't come this far just to call it quits. 1 month may be a short amount of time, but I'm confident we can get everything we need before the deadline. Judging from the way she speaks, this isn't mere bravado coming from her, nor is this a vain attempt at riling Jasper up. She has complete and utter confidence in herself, far more than someone who's just been given a month to fulfill a titanic task like this should possess. It's rather impressive and more than a little concerning. And you're certain you'll be able to answer whether I'm human or not in a mere month of work. In different circumstances, the thought of only needing to wait 1 month to finally get this conundrum sorted out would have elicited a far different response than from you. But now that Mary has nothing more but a month to do so, your feelings aren't quite as hopeful as you might have expected. At least she seems to be taking it in stride. We'll figure something out. We always do. Clearly not always. Jasper interjects in the conversation once again, looking just as annoyed and disappointed as before. Are you really going to fumble about for another month before you call it quits? You truly are delusional. And you're nothing if not persistent, I'll give you that, but you're barking at the wrong tree. I'm aware of your feelings on my project and on the nature of my synthetics. Frankly, I don't think there's a single person in the whole building who doesn't after today. But if you're looking forward to me admitting defeat and giving up on my duty, well, you'd best be prepared to be sorely disappointed. The Drake gives his colleague a long, menacing stare as if sizing her up. Whatever thoughts are swarming his head at present, you cannot say. In the end, he doesn't even grace her with a sigh as he turns to face the other way, looking thoroughly drained by this exchange. Very well. Have it your way, Doctor. See where your misguided confidence leads you. You can see Mary make as if to reply anyway, evidently unhappy with letting her superior have the last word. Before she can do just that, the elevator doors open up once again with a jingle, and the familiar sight of Pandora's lobby shows itself beyond their confines. About time. I'm starting to think I'd be trapped in here with you all day. Alright, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Before I go, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our lovely bronze tier patrons. Thank you all for all you do for the channel. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you to our silver tier patron, Cade Silverman. Thank you for going above and beyond. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you to our gold tier patron, Trezum Guy. You're awesome. We love you. Thank you for subbing to ultimate tier. Anyway, if y'all want to get your names in the credits, get access to all of our not safe for work contents as little as $5. Alrighty, I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!